Blog Talk Radio.
He is the last of his kind. All that remains of a once powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war. And some will stop at nothing to destroy him.
Welcome everyone to Morris Talk Live 100. I'm Tarhaka Bay, and tonight our topic is racism, white supremacy worldwide. Our special guest tonight will be my illustrious brother, Dr. Walter Williams, also Mrs. Arnetta Williams, and Sister Emma McGowan, and later on we'll have my great brother Yoel. He'll be joining us later on. We're going to attempt to deal with the following questions, and if we don't get it all answered tonight, we will be coming back at a later date to finish it off. The first question is, what is racism? Where did the word race come from in the first place? Is white supremacy a system of justice? What guarantees of justice comes under racism, white supremacy? Is racism, white supremacy right or wrong? How do racism, white supremacy benefit people of color on the earth? What is the ancient record of white supremacy on the earth? What is justice when it comes to racism? Should a global effort on the part of people of color exist to destroy racism? What is counter-racism? Will the world breathe a sigh of relief when racism, white supremacy is destroyed? Will nature itself benefit when racism, white supremacy is replaced with justice? Can people of color bring justice to the earth worldwide? Is religion itself a part of global racism, white supremacy? And last but not least, who and what is God? We're going to be getting to these questions and make every effort to answer them with my distinguished panel. But before we get started, I'm going to go into the commercials. And when we come back, we're ready to begin, okay? So y'all just hold on a minute. Make sure you got paper and pencil for this one because we're going to be bringing out a lot of important information. So hold on a moment.
Okay, before you rush out to save the world, have you made up your own bed yet? Does being a secured party make you invincible? The answer is no. But what are the benefits of being a secured party? Go to www.newdataelimination.com. That's www.newdataelimination.com. Or call me, Tarhaka Bay, directly, 904-303-9061 before 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 904-303-9061. 9061 before 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You'll be a secured party creditor, but the most important part about all of it is knowing what it is and knowing exactly what to do with it. That's extremely important. www.newdataelimination.com. What is native ion technology? How does it benefit our health? How does it take away the pain in your body? Well, the secret is out. Go to www.newdataelimination.com. That's www.newdataelimination.com. And right there on the home page, below the red writing, watch the video demonstration. Every lady in America needs to be there. Check it out. If you got any questions, call me, Tarhaka Bay, 904-303-9061 before 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right below the video is all the information that you need to get a hold of this type of technology and this product. And it's always, also marketable, and you can network with it. Call me, 904-303-9061. Go to www.newdataelimination.com. Hi, I'm Tarhaka Bay. I'm not a lawyer and don't give out legal advice. But if you are looking for an opportunity to have your very own general post, your very own professional domicile, or if you need legal advice, go to www.newdataelimination.com and look up top to your right. Click on the new custom page button. It's all the way over to the right. And right below the video on that page, you'll see the links for the general post as well as the link for getting legal advice. If you have any further questions, call me, Tarhaka Bay, 904-303-9061 before 7 p.m. That's 904-303-9061 before 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everything you need is right at www.newdataelimination.com. You're non-resident? Well, if you are, you need your own general post. www.newdataelimination.com.
You don't have to lose your home due to foreclosure. You don't have to worry about child support. You don't have to be in credit card debt. Have no fear. Tarhaka Bay is here at newdataelimination.com. Got student loans, child support, mortgages? Contact someone who's got the experience and the knowledge to get you back under God's law. That's Tarhaka Bay. He's been there, he's done that, and he can prove it. Just give him a call at 904-303-9061. That number again is 904-303-9061. And log on to newdataelimination.com. That's newdataelimination.com and get yourself free.
All right, everybody, we are back.
What?
Okay, we're back. Now, tonight's subject is been major controversy across the United States. And what we want to do is take a good, close look at this thing. And I believe that if we're asking the right questions, we can get the right answers. And I want you all to keep in mind that later on in the broadcast, we are going to open the phone line. So if you got questions or comments, all you have to do is press 1 on your phone. That'll give me an indication that you got something to say, and I can open up the phone so you can get in, okay? But in the meantime, we're going to go right into this thing because we've got a lot of ground to cover and a lot of questions to answer. So I'm going to open up the phone line to one of my guests here. I believe that's so. I got to go check the number. But area code 415, could you tell us who you are and where you're calling from?
This is Emma McGowan calling from San Francisco.
All right, sister. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you back on Morris Talk Live 100. And to get started, I just simply need you to tell the public a little bit about yourself and let us know what you think about this thing.
Okay, I don't have a lot to say about myself. I'm just an average citizen trying to hold on and make it.
I hear you.
But anyway, now, okay, so we're talking about Egypt. We're talking about racism.
We're talking about all of it. We're talking about racism, white supremacy worldwide. And we want to get your take on it based on the questions. What is this thing? And I mean, how do you see it from where you're sitting?
Okay. Well, you know what? I feel like it's a few white people created to keep us separated. Or they could be any color for that go, but they mostly white. And they keep us separated, keep us from talking to each other, keeping us from banding against the powerful. Well, I don't like using that word, powerful. Keep us from communicating as a large group against a small group, as they call a 1%. Now, why is the 1% ruling the other 99%? I never got it. I don't get it. But yet we've been programmed, and I say, what is that word I usually use? It's constructed minds. White people are constructed to think a certain way. Then they construct us as blacks and Mexicans and Asians and stuff. But our goal is really, if you really think about it, is to match up with them. And that I don't understand.
Okay. So do you believe this is a global system?
Oh, yes. Everywhere they've been, it's been division. It's been killing. It's been mayhem. It's been taken over, especially the economic system and the resources for economic purposes only, not for the good of the people there. That's certainly not true.
Okay. Well, do you think this thing is aimed at people of color? And the reason I'm asking that, because I don't know a whole lot of times when they are just with the going to other countries, killing people look like them. I don't remember a whole lot of that. It seems to me there's been a whole lot of stuff going on against people of color. What do you think?
Well, there's obvious. I mean, we don't have to look at the news to know that. We just know, even if we know about where they go, they leave a stream of blood. We know that. And most of the places they go for the resources and stuff is not people that's considered as white.
Okay. Well, what I want to do before I go to my next guest, because I'm going to bring in another guest, I'm going to play a little a quick clip to see if this can shed some light on things. So y'all just hold on for a second.
Has to be a quantum number, though. It has to be a quantum number. In other words, a large number of non-white people, period. Not only a black male, but black females, too. In other words, people who understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works. That's the first order of business. You have to understand that the entire world is dominated by the white supremacists. And if you have color in your skin, you are a person who has been assigned to be mistreated because of your color, because of the way you were born, because of the way that the creator of you, if you are a person of color, a non-white person, the creator put color in your skin. And the white supremacists are saying, well, regardless of who did it, it means you are eligible to be mistreated by me because I'm a white person and you are not white. So I have the power and the authority and the privilege and all of everything that's supposed to be of benefit is supposed to be around me. And you are only supposed to get what I say you can have because you have color in your skin. Now, the non-white people who understand that this is the setup and this is the dominant government of the entire planet, then the white supremacists will understand that you understand this, and if enough people understand it, people can't go. It's something about the mind that says You don't go against something that, you can't ignore something that you understand, particularly when it's working against you. That'll keep bothering you until you'll have a tendency to do something about it. Now, that's what the white supremacists do not want. They do not want black people to be logical. They do not want black people to think about anything except something that's real silly and real stupid. This is why they always glorify stupidity in black people. If a black person has a tendency to show stupidity or silliness, that black person, the white supremacists immediately will seize upon them and say, this person doesn't show any signs of being serious about anything. So these are the black people that we want to become more and more prominent, and we will feed into their silliness. Anything stupid that they come up with or we come up with for them, we will glorify it, as long as it's stupid and silly. Anything that's serious and constructive, we don't want them to be logical. We don't want them to tap into that. That's not the way we want any people of color to ever think. We want them to be celebratory people, to people who are jumping up and down and turning flips all day and running around in a circle. And then when they bump into each other, they immediately start fighting each other. That's the way we want to keep them. But if they're sitting down and slowly thinking things through and trying to be problem solvers rather than problem makers, no, we don't want those type of non-white people to get out from under our surveillance. You watch them very closely. It's like that dangerous black person on the plantation who's always going around trying to read something or trying to figure things out, asking questions, trying to figure out how the plantation is run. That is a dangerous Negro on this plantation. Sell him down the river or give him a good whipping and stop him from being curious about serious things. Keep him in the silly mode. That is the category that black people are always supposed to be in, the silly mode, the destructive mode. Don't let them think about anything serious, because then they become a danger.
Okay. What do you think about that? That's Dr. Neely Fuller. He's the author of the Compensatory Code Concept, Racism, White Supremacy. What you think about that, Sister Emma?
I think, he was telling the truth about how it worked and how that I perceived it in a lot of ways. But by the same token, we got to realize that we've been constructed to think a certain way. That is very true. And then by the same token, we all know that it's racism involved. We're not that stupid. We may act that, but that's like being two-faced. That's for them, not for us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? In the sense that that's how we got out of, well, we're not completely out of slavery, but that's how we got out the first phase of it, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That goes along with what
correct. You're right.
So
I'm more
about some of what he's saying, but I'm not. I'm saying that's what the perception may want us to be. But as a kid, I used to ask my parents, if we're so stupid, we're so bad, and we all of the stuff these white folks say about us, why do they even bother with? Why they pay so much attention to us? Why don't they just let us be then if we that stupid? There's something wrong with that train of thought.
Can't do that now. We gotta watch it, because we don't never know when one of y'all gonna jump up and become a Tarhaka, Dr. Walter Williams, Emma, Arnetta, Brother Yoel. Well, y'all may pop up, so we got to keep an eye on the group.
But we pop up anyway. We just not get in the forefront of it. We all will pop up at some point just by talking to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, when you start communicating and becoming serious and stuff, then you become under the radar, because you are involved in something that's wholesome and what you are supposed to be doing as people. I'm going to open up the another phone line here.
Okay.
Area code 773. I'm looking for Mrs. Arnetta Williams.
Hello.
Are you?
Good afternoon.
Hello, Mrs. Williams.
Okay.
Great to have you on the show. I've been looking for you a long time.
All righty. Yes, I was able to make it today. I'm happy that I'm here, and sorry that I wasn't able to be here previously due to various circumstances.
Okay, that's all right. You're here tonight, and that's what counts. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself? And I have some questions for you, and we're gonna get these questions answered early. We got to get this thing out straight. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a student of truth. That's my primary identification, and I'm interested in expanding the knowledge of our people to get us back to where we were and help them to know who they were before so that they can know who they can become. So that's my primary objective. As you know, I've been alongside Dr. Walter Williams for the last 25 years, just about.
Okay.
And I've been his editor and written a couple of chapters in each book that we have out there, and we're currently trying to get out a third book to help educate our folks.
Okay. Well, now I have a question for you. And you, in one of his books, I think it was the Historical Origins of Christianity.
Okay.
When he was talking about Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Could you you did some research on whether or not it was even possible for there to be a Jesus Christ during the time period that it was supposed to be written. What was it that you found out? What is your take on the alphabet J itself?
Oh, on J. Well, let's see. The letter J, of course, that's the 10th letter in the alphabet, and I'm going to give you what I can on it. It's kind of coming off the top here. Let's see. And that particular letter wasn't in use until 1630, in the 17th century. Before that, we had the letter I that was used as a consonant and a vowel. So as time went on, I think one of the distinctions in terms of using the I was they used to take it below the line to use it as a consonant. So eventually that evolved into the actual letter J. And supposedly the pronunciation did not change that much, but I don't know whether I totally accept that or not, because looking at a word, say, for example, the name John, how would you say IOHN? And perhaps at the time it might have said John, but I think today we would say Ion or something. But that evolved into the harder sound, John, to draw a distinction. And I think that also coincided with perhaps the coming of the King James Bible, which was 1611. That came about. So I think there was probably some things that coincided with changing that up. So that's what I'm thinking in brief here. And we take the name Jesus. Originally, I guess that was pronounced. That's gone through a whole lot of iterations. The I, we had I-E-U-S, and we have pronounced Jesus because the letter J kind of evolved with us looking for the origin of the name of Jesus. And I guess we learned a few things in the process. For example, we had Zeus coming out of the Greek. And when we look at the alphabet chart, we see the I, but we see Z coming out of that as well. So, you start to think, okay, Zeus, is that the same as Jesus? Is that IESUS? And then I looked into the French, and I saw that we had two different words in the name of Jesus. We had JE, which stands basically for I in the French as a pronoun, and then Zeus. So, Zeus, or however you want to say it, S-U-S. Mm-hmm. So there were just one question kind of led to another, and you say, oh, were they saying I, Zeus? And then eventually push those together, and we end up with Jesus in Spanish, and eventually Jesus in the English. So, so I would say that the name was probably evolutionary, and we ended up in the English. And the interesting thing about it, usually when a name becomes popular and well known, it's pronounced basically the same in most languages. Now, I know in Spanish they still say Jesus for Jesus. And and I'm not sure now in the French exactly how they say it, but oftentimes it's just referred to as Jesus. So that's kind of how that evolved. And then, of course, we discovered that the image started out with the name, not name, however, the title of Christ. And then they decided to give it and then it was given a name. And this is a name that was eventually assigned to it. So I don't know if that enlightens, but it certainly.
Oh, yeah.
I would encourage folks to read it and kind of give it some thought themselves. So we just kind of throw all that out there and say, okay, what's the real deal here? So just as the image was created, we would say that the name most likely is a created name as well, and not a name that actually existed in history. Of course not.
Okay. So, well, now I know that chapter is in his book. In your
it is the historical origin of the letter J.
Okay.
And I would say it probably raised as many questions as it attempted to answer.
Okay. Because, well, he straightened a lot of this out because he gave us our ancient story on it, and he gave us his story on it, and in my opinion, the matter's settled. It says all that.
Yes, because we know that there was no actual person. So if you set out if you created something, then you just have to keep piling on to that. And we have to settle on what we believe to be the truth of the matter, because when you're dealing in untruth, you're doing the best that you possibly can.
Okay. Well, I have another question. Now, Dr. Williams told me something that I thought was quite profound. He said, if I'm not mistaken, I think you all were working or something, or he was working, and you came to him, and you gave him information concerning God. And I thought that was very profound. I mean, to me, that was major, because, that's one of the questions that's been in the back of people's minds for years and years and years. And could you repeat for us what it was you told Dr. Williams, your husband, about who or what God is?
Well, there has been so much discussion, and it really hasn't stopped. But, yeah, what I said to him, I said, God is an abstract idea that needs human spirituality to give it life. Now, part of the reason that I said that is because there are so many definitions and interpretations of God. And there is no one definition. So therefore, it's oftentimes it's left up to the individual as to what God is, because we hear people say, "Well, God means this to me," and another says, "Well, it means this to me," and they can do that because it is abstract, and oftentimes you get God conflated with the Jesus Christ. And people get even more confused. And I contend that that's a lot of the reason we have so many denominations is because of the interpretation and the confusion that surrounds what or who this God is. So some of us think about God in terms of being the overarching one, the omnipresent one, the omnipotent one, the all-knowing one. Then again, God is confused with the Creator or conflated with the Creator. Are they one and the same or no? Or is the Creator and something that was God created by the Creator? I mean, it goes on, and you could question yourself into infinity about it. You're not going to get much agreement on it unless you have folks in the same denomination and they've been taught what God is supposed to be. And when oftentimes I hear folks discussing, I had a discussion with a group about a week ago, and they were interchanging God and Jesus. And one said, "Well, I believe they're separate." Another say, "I believe that it's the same." I said, "Oh, you're saying Jesus is the Creator?" And then they look confounded. "No, I think they're separate. But I do believe that you have to go through Jesus to get to God." You know, that kind of back and forth. But I believe that our ancient ancestors were clear on who the Creator was. Now, with them, you see, well, I'm not going to get into the in need. I'm sure Walter will at some point probably talk about that. Okay? And how in our ancient culture the Creator is usually depicted by the sun god Ra. Okay? God, I don't even believe that's a term our ancient ancestors used at all. You've heard of netters?
Yeah.
Some equate the netters and God. They do that. But what I personally believe, and of course, let me mention this, when you talk about the ancient Egyptians to a Christian, often they believe that, the Egyptians were polytheistic. They had many gods. But what does that mean? Okay, they were, and in their minds, they were pagans. But when we visited Egypt, Emma and I went together in 92, and what was immediately evident to me was that God and what they call the gods, what we call the gods, was that actually we were dealing with different aspects of nature. And our people were so in tune with nature that they were able to distinguish those aspects of nature, which turned out to be aspects of creation. They were that finely attuned to nature. And what I've noticed about those, many in the church, they want to run from nature, or they're taught against nature. Oh, those are sun worshipers. They're this, they're that. Negativity. How can anything in nature be a negative? How is that possible? Especially with the sun that gives you life, gives you food, warms the earth. How can you turn that into a negative? Or the air that you breathe, that the ancient Egyptians referred to as Shu. Okay, and some say the god of air, but we could say the netter of the air. So words matter, and we need to be careful in how we use them and how we define them, and take a look behind the words or the things that we are being taught. We're going to have to do some exploring for ourselves to get where we need to be, such as back to nature and appreciating nature and all that's represented there. Moisture, tefnut, okay? Sure, they used different symbols in order to illustrate what was being talked about. And some think that God is this removed figure in the sky, God of the sky. But there was Nut, who is the goddess, the woman, the goddess. And the ancient Egyptians recognized women and the role that they had to play. So, no, there's no god of the sky. There's the goddess of the sky. That was female. And if you've seen some of the depictions in ancient Egypt where you see the celestial, you see the woman bent over the earth, Gab, which is male, and the sun passing through her body, and all these kinds of things, okay, to try to teach us about nature and all the things that are relative to us when we really get down to it. We're looking up at the sky every day. We need to know something about it, the stars, the moon, and all those things. We need to know something about those things. So when we go back to ancient Egypt, whether it's in our minds or we get us books and start studying about our ancestors, we will get back in tune with who we really are and who they were, as opposed to someone who is trying to destroy all of that and to get us to look at our ancestors in a negative way, when they've taken all that they can from our ancestors and tried to regurgitate that according to their own beliefs and in a way to build up themselves, but on the backs of our ancestors and at our expense. Hey, I mean, I could kind of go on and on about those
you're doing great now. You're doing great. I have, before I ask you this other question, I'm going to throw my little 2 cents in. Since I've been studying, I've got your Dr. Williams' books. But prior to ever getting his books, I read a book by a woman. Her name was Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She wrote a book called The ISIS Paper. And after reading that, and then after reading Dr. Neely Fuller's books on the compensatory code, I'm now able to ask the right questions in the right light. So the question to me is very, very simple. When we hear somebody use the word Jesus, and we hear the word God, based on what I know, the only question that should need to be asked is, who wrote it, and who are they, and what's their record, and when it comes to when did they learn how to read and write, and what qualifies them to give us these terms and stuff. These are the questions that I have to ask. And once we really look at that, then these two words, both Jesus and God, they become suspect.
Absolutely,
and must be put under the microscope.
Right, and we have to ask about the motive and where did they come from, and I know you guys have talked about that many times, about the creation of the image and all that surrounded that. So I won't attempt to go into any of that, but absolutely, we have to. They want to tell us that the Bible gives us all the information, but we know that the Bible is a book of ideas, as this rabbi was explaining to Morgan Freeman when he was that Morgan Freeman? Oh yeah, In Search of God. She said the Bible cannot be read historically. In other words, it can't be read as factual or the truth. It has to be read as a book of ideas. And see, they don't want us to think of religion as a philosophy, but it is. That's all it is. Because in the Bible, those are someone's thoughts, okay? And they want to put all the mysticism around it. But many of those books, we can identify the author and what they were up to in the period in which they were written. And I think it's thoroughly acknowledged that most of that was not written in the periods in which the so-called events occurred, but at a different time. So, there are many questions. We just can't take things blindly. We've got to ask questions, and sure, they want us to accept the Bible as the Word of God. But when you know that there was a Council of Trent where it was decided at that council meeting for 1545 that the Bible from that point on would be considered inerrant, which means without error, and the Word of God. Back to God. What God? I mean, there are questions we have to go into, but that was a decision made, a consensus determined by a group of people. And we have to ask why. Why was that so? And this was after they put the first and the second so-called covenants, the Old Testament and the New Testament under one cover, that many things started to happen and had been happening. It was basically political because they were destroying each other. There were polemics. There were arguments. People were tearing each other apart. And they got together and said, hey, let's put this under one cover. Let's save each other, because many questions were being raised. And they wanted to stop some of those questions and then put that tag on it. This is the Word of God. In other words, you have a lot of folks, don't question it. Do not question it. That was the wall that went up. But we must continue to question at every turn.
Okay. Well, Sister, you have put that very, very well. I see. Well, let me make this announcement that the phone lines are now officially open, and I do see a caller with his hand raised at area code 312. So I'm going to open up and see if they have a question. Area code 312. You are on the air. Can you tell us who you are and where you're calling from?
Yes, my name is Brother Yoel. I'm calling from the Underground Bookstore in Chicago, Illinois.
All right, welcome aboard, my brother.
Afternoon to all of you good people.
All right,
thank you.
Glad to have you here. And I want to ask you, if you would, you gave us some information about yourself, and you said Underground Bookstore in Chicago, and you do carry Dr. Walter Williams' books, The Historical Origins of Christianity, The Historical Origins of Islam.
I'd be in trouble if I didn't.
I hear you. Well, I don't think Walter will mess with you too bad. He seems like I don't know them about the books now. You might be right. Anyway, they're treasures, so it ain't right to get upset something go wrong. But my question to you, Brother Yoel, what is your personal take on racism, white supremacy, as it exists worldwide? How do you see this thing?
Well, you name one of the. Well, before I say that, let me just say that first of all, y'all got to come up to date because see, two powerful people out there that already said that y'all outdated. What you're talking about doesn't even exist anymore. That's one of the people that this good sister just mentioned. Mr. Morgan Freeman told the brother on I think it was MSNBC. I forget this, Don Lemon. Mr. Morgan Freeman told Don Lemon racism doesn't exist no more. If you talk about it, then you create it. But if you don't talk about it, it doesn't exist anymore. So, according to Mr. Freeman, y'all are outdated. He said there's no racism anymore. And there's one other young brother who he must have been listening to Mr. Freeman, but his name is Lil Wayne. He said if racism exists, he wouldn't be a millionaire. So y'all got to be suffering some kind of illusion there. Y'all got to change the subject here today because that's not true. There's no such thing like that out there. That's something that you're just talking about from way back in the '60s somewhere. So that's the first thing I say. So if those guys are correct, then we having the wrong conversation. But I think that for Mr. Freeman, he contradicts himself because I personally heard him tell Mr. What's his name, Henry Louis Gates, that when he asked the question, has he experienced racism before? He said yes. And he said he experienced it in his industry, and he says no, there's no location. There's no location. He said he experienced it in Hollywood. He was walking and talking with the man, and the man asked him that. So he's a contradiction. He's confused if you listen to what that fellow says, as far as I'm concerned. But my take on it, you just named a couple of people that, of course, we need to definitely make sure we read their books several times. Mr. Lely Fuller's book, of course, the compensatory code. Well, the correct name is the United Independent Compensatory Code and System Concept. Okay, so that, as well as Dr. Francis Cress Welson's book, those books are specifically dealing with those issues of racism. Many other books mention racism, of course. But like I said, if you listen to some of our people, y'all living in somewhere back in the '60s or something like that. But something is wrong with one of us because we both can't be. They can't be right and we wrong. Somebody has to be wrong in this situation, and I think they're wrong, and they suffer from some kind of illusion themselves. So, but. I think that it's definitely something that exists today, as did yesterday. They're a lot more clever with it today because they practice a real art to what they do. They definitely operate out of the book of Sun Tzu with keeping my friends close and keeping my enemies closer, and that's what I think keeps us confused. See, I've come to the conclusion recently that one of the things we need to start teaching the youth is that we that we are operating with some people or counter. What's the right word here? We're fighting against some people who can be inviting you to lunch on one hand, like they did with Patrice Lumumba, and planning your death on the other hand. Okay, and so therefore that confuses us when the guy just invited you to dinner. You think you okay with him or you cool, but that's not the case. He's plotting your death is what he's doing. He maybe needs you to leave the house for a minute, so he can plan what he needs to do to you. But it's it's something that he will pay you money. He will pay you money, and then at the same time make you think you're his friends, but he's under the table. He's kicking you or plotting to counter whatever he is he's giving you that money for to do that you think that you're doing good for, that he's supporting, but he's just paying for the privilege of you telling him everything that you're doing so he can counter what you're doing. You know, they'll do that. Okay, right here in Chicago, they give youth organizations money, and those youth think that these good white folks who are giving them that money are friends of theirs, but those white folks are not really friends of theirs. They're giving them the money so they can report to them what it is, these ideas emanating out of their minds that they want to implement out here in the streets. What are they so they can counter them? Because we're talking about some people here who's got, in one of the books that I have in the store is a book called Matrix Street, for instance. Now, this book has about 5, 6. It's a 6-volume set. A 6-volume just came out recently, I think earlier this year or maybe last year. Now, this Matrix is Matrix 3 is the subject is it's a 2-volume set, and that book is a psychosocial, chemical, biological, and electromagnetic manipulation of human consciousness. Now, these people are serious about playing the game, and they're serious about playing the game and winning. That's why we are always reacting, because when we win a battle, we go back to sleep. They don't go back to sleep. They go back they go back to the drawing board and come out with spending more money, even if they give you what you say you wanted. They still give you what you wanted and continue to plan and plan and practice their racist ways. But you think it's all over with, but it ain't all over with it for him. He continues to do what he's been doing. And that's why we always 10, 15 years, 20 years behind when he comes out with whatever it is that he's trying to implement, like here in Chicago. Once again, the land grab that's taking place in Chicago, they've been planning this for a long time. And
that's right.
If one in Chicago has been paying attention, especially politicians, hindsight being 20/20, if you look back at Mr. Harold Washington, the first black mayor of this city of Chicago, that man had to be killed and got out of the way of this racism that they had to push here, because he was interrupting what they had planned for this city of Chicago. Okay? So he had to go. You know, and if people in Chicago, and there's many, many people in Chicago don't even know what happened in that situation, still don't know what happened in that situation today. And they haven't taken a look back to see what if anything was any racism or anything else involved in that situation. They don't know. They haven't studied it. But I say that it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out. He was in fact in these people's way, and they had some plans that they had in place here to do something in Chicago. So ask me if that's an illusion, Mr. Freeman or Lil Wayne. That's not an illusion. That's real. Okay. So I think this racism thing is definitely alive and well today, but he's gotten a lot more cunning in how he implements his racism. Like I said, you know, he'll smile in your face while doing the things that he intends to do to you, you know, at the same time. You know, or he'll send one of his naive brethren or sisterins out to smile in your face while he's still planning to do what he needs to do to you. So that's how crafty these people is. And it can be confusing if you really don't study this thing. You can't get into this naive or not having some background or knowledge involved in this. I think that was a classic example of that was Mr. Martin Luther King. In the beginning, he was naive as to what was going on, so that he couldn't understand the Malcolm X's and the Elijah Muhammad's and the Marcus Garvey and all them kind of people. He couldn't understand that because he was just a little country boy from Georgia that didn't understand the dynamics of what he was invited to participate in. So, but in the end, I think that's when he was beginning to wake up and smell the coffee is what got him killed, because then he decided to, he said, I think I put my people in something like into a already burning house or something like that. You know, he began to open his eyes to what was going on, and then he made the comment about we've been issued a check that comes back counsel or something like that, and he got into the international affairs with the with the war on Vietnam, and he came out against that. And he was messing with their money. Then he would be starting to open his eyes, and he didn't want to no longer participate in that, because he, I think, was also moving toward what Malcolm had realized, and that is that our plight wasn't civil rights, but it was human rights is what we were dealing with. So but you were saying something earlier with respect to belief. Belief belief can. Bob Marley used to say, belief can mess you up. Okay, what you believe can mess you up. Okay, that's something that comes up out of the mind of the individual whose thoughts or convictions of a certain position inside of them induced into their mind that comes out. It doesn't have anything to do with the truth. If you understand what I'm saying, it doesn't necessarily mean that what you believe is true. Okay, and so that's why it can mess you up. You know, like Oshawa Kwesi used to say, you know, you can believe that you can stand out in the streets there and you ain't gonna get hurt by a Mack truck coming down the streets. But stand out there. The reality is that you're gonna be hurt by that Mack truck coming down the street. You know, so I tell folks, I just told a young brother and sister yesterday, I say, you know, when do you enter into the realm of knowing? At some point you stop believing and you must know God, or as they said when they talk about their God. But again, since I mentioned that word God, the sister was dealing with that word, and that word is also singular and masculine. You can't get creator out of singular and masculine. Now, you got to have some feminine in there. So that word there can't be referring to the creator. Okay, you have to have, it has to be plural and masculine and feminine in nature. The word has to be, if you're talking about the creator. So that's a big difference between God and creator. You know, but people don't do the research on the word or the etymology of the word like that. So, so that's what you have to add to understanding that word anyway, and where it comes from and how it is that we use it. I use it for reference because that's what people are at, and I think a lot of people around the world kind of use it for reference. So that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the same meaning in another language. For instance, it's not the same meaning in another language. It doesn't come back to God as we know it. But anyway, that's what I wanted to come out with right there for right now, and I'm gonna turn it back over to you so you can take it on further.
Well, I'm gonna finish dealing with the Mrs. Arnetta Williams has already stated about the back and forth and the God and the Jesus thing. So my question is, who created it? What's their record? We know that racism, white supremacy deals with confusion. So if you can't come to a conclusion about something for 400 years, and you're always confused about it, well, we had to identify the culprit. Well, look at his record, and look at what else he did. And we got to turn over every rock. And she said something very, very profound. She said we got to start doing a thorough investigation on ourselves and our own ancient story. And she's absolutely correct. And I'm going to be bringing Dr. Walter Williams in. We're an hour in. I'm going to take a little quick break. And when we come back, we'll get to Dr. Walter Williams. So y'all might want to cut your volume up on this one. We'll be right back. Hold on.
What do you fear most? Now, don't answer right away. Get your agreement straight, because once you say what you fear most, then we can roll. If you don't, or if you be evasive, or if you give an answer that's not logical, based on your power. All right? Because, see, they don't have the power to control the genetics once the sexual intercourse happens. They don't have the power to control what that baby is going to look like. They admit to that themselves. So that's what we say that the fear is, see. But now, if they go anywhere outside of that, we just say, okay, all you're doing is just announcing that you want to continue these things as they are, and we don't intend for it to continue as it is, even though right now we don't know what to do about it, but we will consider you from now on as a person not to be talked to about anything that has to do with this issue. It's no longer any dialogue about this. Racial discussions with you are over. You no longer participate with us in anything that has to do with race. We are taking our agenda and completely discounting anything that you have to say on it. You no longer, as for the non-white people of this planet, unlike Bandung or someplace like that, their conference in 1955, and the Durban conference, which you recently had, you no longer participate. You're no longer legitimate to participate in what's going to happen on this planet as far as the colors are concerned. You don't have a voice anymore. Now, they're going to take that. Or, in other words, well, you are just saying that we are in a state of war. Yeah, damn right. That's what I see. You got that right. And that's the position that we have to take and stop being timid about it.
I've got some white people that I'm meeting with, and I want to know how much work should I put into getting information and answers from them.
Well, you get information. You're sitting with some white people, right? And you say, what's your greatest fear?
What's your greatest fear? That's the question.
I'm interested. What is your...
And let them answer
What
you.
is your greatest fear in relationship to people of color?
Yeah.
And what's your greatest fear in relationship
and tell them
to
please don't make such a and tell them please don't make a long conversation.
And don't say something like that they might...
Hey, now you're presupposing.
Wait a minute.
You're presupposing what they're going to say.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
If they say they might kill us, they're talking about a power that is other than arms. The non-white people don't have weapons. You see, so if they think that they could be eliminated, they got to be talking at another level. You could say, surely you're not talking about weapons. Surely you're not talking about money.
I guess what I'm asking is, should I be participating in this thing with these white people to get information, or is it a waste of time?
Well, no, you can talk to them, but I wouldn't talk to them and get a headache if you go there expecting that they're going to give you some information that you don't already have. You see,
That's what I'm trying to pull out.
No, you should go there with being interested in their responses.
See, the thing about it, you're really not trying to pull nothing out. You're asking a flat-out question, just like a subpoena.
See, it's as though you're saying they are going to give you an answer that is superior to the answers that we already have on the table.
I'm wondering if they might know something about how the system of racism and white supremacy works.
That's another question.
No.
That's another
All you got to do is find what is their greatest fear where black people, non-white people, are concerned. I thought and let them tell you in about 2 sentences. End of dialogue.
And if they say, well, let's go out to dinner.
Of all that we've experienced and seen, do we need that? Do we need to hear it from them?
We need it because, yes, we need to hear it because it makes focus. We haven't had focus. How many talks do you go to? How many talks do I go to? Where I walk out of there and I say, where was the focus? See, how can we proceed from what we got? Just like Miss Norton did when she made her study. See, I haven't a clue from making this study as to how to proceed. This is a big, thick book. I mean, with a whole bunch of super brains spending all kinds of money to run all over the place, doing every type of detailed research you can make.
So in other words, we need
unlimited funds to do it. And then you wind up saying, I don't have a clue as to how to proceed. The whole idea, if you go to NASA Space Center and get ready to make a shot, you don't make all of those studies ad infinitum and then say, you know what, I don't have a clue as to how to get this rocket off the ground. And yet you done spent all them billions of dollars. See? I mean, no, you better have a clue. Huh?
No, wait a minute. See, I think if you're going to have any dialogue at all with white people, you might ask, how many people in this room are interested in eliminating racism, white supremacy, and replacing it with justice? Then there's going to be silence.
No, we get a room full of white people.
No, wait a minute. Not racism. Well, wait a minute. Not racism in the abstract. Racism as white supremacy on this planet.
We got a room full of white people and all their hands go up.
Okay, all of them say that they want to.
Right.
End it.
That's a long way around, I'm telling you that. That's what I believe. I believe it.
No,
he said they're angry.
Wait a minute. They said that. Fine. They said they want to end it. Question number 2. What is your greatest fear? You want to end it? You must have, in other words, racism exists. The oppression of the non-white global majority exists on planet Earth. So, what is your fear?
And these white people I'm meeting with may say something like, I'm afraid that I'm going to get attacked by a black person because they think that I'm the white person who's practicing racism, white supremacy, and I'm not.
I never had slaves.
Okay. But see, that's what I'm saying by...
No, well, we want you to speak for your collective.
That's what I mean by fear most.
You classify yourself as white. Speak for your collective, because it's always some individual white person. It's not me. Well, speak for your collective. When they say they're afraid of a black person attacking them, they're speaking about the whole group of black people.
See,
they're generalizing about the whole group of black people. Are they not?
And they say that that's the reason why they want to end the racism.
Well, what he's saying is correct, see, but that's why I'm saying in this room, before we leave here, we have to tighten it up so tight, drum tight, that, see, we don't keep going around in the circle. The white supremacy system is designed to keep any black people who are even thinking about the subject, once they start talking about it, is to wash you around the park forever until you just fall down exhausted, and then they say, okay, next nigga, for a walk around the park. We have to hit the jugular vein and to get all that blood splurting out at once, and you have to do it with a karate chop. So we have to find out right here in this room, where is the karate chop? One chop. See, not no whole lot of stuff. See, once they get you into that stuff thing, they are masters of stuff. Okay? They know how to beat you every time if you're going to have a long conversation. See? I learned that from that sergeant that I had. See, right, he already had his thing in place. He said, full of my time is too short for a long conversation. Come to the point.
Right. So
they come to the point and come to it right now.
It's the greatest
I don't want no more stuff. Right.
Of having the white person say what they fear is the greatest utility of that it makes it credible. And that black people...
It makes it credible because you got a back door saying, wait a minute, if your answer is incoherent to me, if it doesn't make sense, I'm going to ask somebody else because there's no point in talking to you anymore. See, that's got to be clear. In the United Nations or any place else, we have to start approaching en masse with that type of thing. We're not going to have no long dialogue. This is not going to call for no long, umpteenth conferences, and then next year we're going to have another one. See, that foolishness has got to stop. I mean, in its tracks. We got to just almost outlaw that.
How much work do I do to pull that, to get that answer from them?
Simply say, you start, everything has a starting point. You just say, this is the whole package. This is not something like we're beginning to have a dialogue. This is the whole thing. We're talking about your fear. Now, if we can't get it clear about your fear, it's no point in talking any further. We got to make that our bottom line. See, that should be the bottom line in NAACP. If we can't get you to cite concisely in one sentence, preferably, we'll allow you maybe two. You're the thing that you fear most where non-white people are concerned, and we don't want no long dialogue about that one thing, because the long dialogue after then, without you coming to the forefront with that, means we're just talking in a barrel. And that's true. See, what I'm saying is not abstract. That's where you're going to go with this. The minute you get into that long thing, I mean, hey, you're just going to get weary, that's all. And you're going to walk up exhausted. Now, if we haven't learned that by now, I don't see any point in,
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back, and we're going to go back to our distinguished panel, and I'm going to go back to area code 773, and I'm going to bring in Dr. Walter Williams, author of The Historical Origins of Christianity and author of The Historical Origins of Islam. Dr. Walter Williams, are you ready? Are you with me?
Yes, sir. I'm right here, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay. Well, now I got one question for you.
Okay.
And the question is religion itself a part of the global system of racism, white supremacy, and why?
Well, the answer to that question is yes. Religion, especially Christianity, is the foundation of white supremacy because the icon, the image, and the symbol of white supremacy is institutionalized in every Christian church throughout America and every Christian church throughout the world. That symbol of that dead white man on the cross is a symbol of white supremacy. So therefore, you have to understand that every time you go into these churches as a Christian, that you're going in that building and institution to further enhance and keep in force white supremacy and white superiority. That's what you're doing. So the answer to your question is yes. Now, we're talking about racism, okay? But here's what we're going to have to do in order to get to the bottom of this, like you always say about different subjects on your program. Say we must get to the bottom of it. You have to start off with the world's first and oldest civilized people that ever existed on planet Earth during the time of antiquity, ancient times. And those people that I'm talking about are our ancestors. We have to know about their history that they created in the continent of Africa, in Egypt, through their culture. We have to understand what was created by them through their culture, whereby they brought forth into the world of humanity the first rudiments of civilization for all of humanity, of all races, creeds, and colors walking this earth. We have to know that. So through their culture, they brought forth civilization. We have to know who they are. We have to go back into history, into the discipline of human history, not pseudepigraphy or false history. We have to go back into human history. And once you go back into human history, you're going back into Africa. You're going back into the continent of Africa in the country called Egypt. And you're going to have to deal with an African people known to us today as the ancient Egyptians. You have to study their culture and what came from their culture. Like I said, every aspect and every thing that is being used today as civilization or making an individual civilized as a person or a human being came from the culture of ancient Egypt. Now, you have to realize that there was no racism back then. There was no dominating other races of people back then. There was only coexistence in peace and harmony, because the ancient Egyptians practiced an underlying principle that is known to us today as the Maathian Creed. The Maathian Creed consists of truth, justice, peace, love, and wisdom. If you understand those 5 principles that came from the natural spiritual resources of the universe, then you can understand how the ancient Egyptians used those principles to guide their culture, to guide their everyday lives there in the continent of Africa, in Egypt. Okay? Now, let's go back. One has to study that culture and what came out of that culture of ancient Egyptians. That's number one. The second thing we have to study is that we have to know something about ourselves individually as a human being. We have to know what was given to us when we came out of our mother's womb, attached to her umbilical cord. That umbilical cord was cut by the doctor after us being incubated in her body for the development to come out at the end of the 9 months of incubation as a human being. We have to know that we had everything that we would spiritually need to sustain ourselves individually as long as we live. We have to know that we were free. I'm talking about all of humanity. You got 7 billion humans walking this earth as human beings. You got to understand that these 7 billion humans came into this world the same way that you and I came into this world, attached to their mother's umbilical cord. That umbilical cord furnished to each and every human on earth air, food, and water for their 9 months of development. That you have to really understand that. You also have to understand that no human on earth came into this world with a religion. Okay? So now, so those 2 things that you have to really understand and study before you can go off into the study of racism. You have to study who you are as a human being, what was given to you when you came out of your mother's womb, and what you possess after you came out of the development of the 9 months of incubation in her womb. What you possess that you are using every day in your life. Okay? The second thing, you have to find your way back to the world's first and oldest civilization that ever existed on planet Earth. And again, I say that first and oldest civilization came out of the continent of Africa in the country that's called Egypt, from the culture of a people that's known today as the ancient Egyptians. You have to study those 2 things before you can really understand about racism. The third thing that you have to study is the European first becoming on the scene of world history. You have to study that European. And the average person today, as I speak, of all races, including the European, he is confused as to where his beginning history started. He's confused about that. But you have to go back in order to study this European before you can understand racism. Because, again, like I said before the European came on the scene of history, there was no racism. There was complete harmony among the other races on earth until this European, walked into the continent of Africa in a country called Egypt, meeting our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. Our ancient Egyptians, when he came in 332 BC, under the leadership of Alexander the Greek, they had a civilization already in existence for 9,668 years before he got there. When he got there, he saw this great and grand and glorious civilization it was flourishing over there in Egypt, in Africa, by this one group of Africans in the continent of Africa, from their culture, issued civilization for all of humanity. So there are some things that you really have to understand and study before you can get to the foundation and the root of the understanding about racism. And you have to understand and study this European. You got to study where he came from. Where he came from had nothing of substance that he can bring forth and be proud of. He had nothing. What was he? He was a sociopath, a psychopath, and he was uncivilized. He was inferior. He was a heathen. He had no semblance of understanding of how to be a civilized person. So he came around our ancestors, saw what they had created for 9,668 years before he got there. And he wanted to be part of that. Okay? Now, everywhere he went into this world, after that point, after coming into Egypt, and his time clock began when he came into Egypt in 332 under the leadership of Alexander the Greek. His time began to tick at that moment, all the way from 332 BCE up until today of 2017. And that's been 2,349 years ago. Again, he's been in the historical pattern of history for 2,349 years. This is how he has been in control of this planet that we call Earth. How did he get into control of this planet we call Earth? He uses the only thing that he knows, coming out of his sociopath and psychopathic mind. He used terrorism, lies, deceit, selfishness, all of these things that he created within his own way of thinking. So therefore, he created an institution that's based off of lies, deceit, murder, injustice, corruption, greed, terrorism, militarism, sexism, racism, slavery, exploitation, selfishness, drugs, violence, rape, plunder, hate, white supremacy, religion, mythology, and perverted scholarship. That's his institution he created after he came in on the scene of history after meeting our ancestors. Now, our ancestors was terrorized by him also, okay? And what he wanted our ancestors to do for him was to make him a god, okay? He didn't know how to do that. He didn't understand anything about God. That word God is very important. It's very lucid. It means that God is thrown about, like my wife, Sister Arnetta Williams, was trying to explain earlier in this program. It's a term loosely applied by these various religions out here on planet Earth. So we'll get back to that about God. But we're going to deal with the bottom rudiments of where racism came from. Racism, there was no racism until the Europeans created racism, that term racism, to try to separate himself as something of substance over other races when he knew, and he know at this very moment that he's inferior. He know at this very moment that he's inferior. But he projects inferiority on the very people who brought forth civilization for all of humanity, and that's our ancestors, ancient Egyptians. He projects on them what he is in actuality, inferior. You see? So therefore, he had to destroy us in order for him to bring himself up before the whole world, that he is something great and something that should be worshipped. And our ancestors created for him an image using his image to do just that. Our ancestors created him into this Jesus the Christ that we know today. And he eliminated us as he got what he wanted from our ancestors. He tried to anyway. So, long story short, when that seed of Christianity, after our ancestors created his image into the Christ, was transferred out of Northeast Africa, out of the double-walled city of Constantinople, out of the world's first Christian church, the Hagia Sophia, into Europe in 1439 by John VIII, going into Florence, Italy, at a curia there, the word C-U-R-I-A means college, and relinquishing what is known today as the donation of Constantine. That paved the way for the seat of Christianity, or the seat of the church that was created in Northeast Africa, built and commissioned to be built by Justinian and his wife Theodora, built by African architects and African scholars for this European. Everything was done for the European because we don't need this. Our ancestors existed on planet Earth for 9,668 years before this European ever came on the scene of history. So now here you have this church being erected in 532, finished 5 years later, December 27, 537, called the Church of the Hagia Sophia, or the Church of Mary and Christ. And when that seat was moved into Europe in 1439, 6 years after that, 1445, St. Peter's Church, or St. Peter's Basilica, was built by our ancestors to house this image. So now this image is being used because at that time, when the image and the church and the seat of Christianity was moved from Northeast Africa, which is called the Middle East today, into Europe, the Europeans who ran this Vatican unleashed on the world a monster that they called Jesus the Christ. And that image and the icon and the symbol of that image, again, is being institutionalized in all Christian churches throughout America and throughout the world. So that is the foundation and the root foundation of white supremacy. So he uses that to go all over the world and to get all different races of people to worship his image, that dead white man on the cross that's called Jesus the Christ. That is a symbol of white supremacy. So you have to get back to that, Brother Tarhaka, and understand the words that I just spoke, to understand, to get to the root and the bottom of the beginning of white supremacy. And that's where it began. Brother Tarhaka?
Okay.
Well put and well done, Dr. Walter Williams. And I'd like to add to the listening audience, if you have questions, if you'd like to make a comment, a positive comment, by the way, the number to dial into the broadcast is 310-982-4184. Press 1 on your phone. That'll give me an indication that you got something to say, and I'll open up the phone line. I'm going to go back to Sister McGowan and see what she has to say. Sister McGowan, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Based on what we've discussed so far, what else is it that you would like to add?
Oh, I think Walt is absolutely right, and I think that even today, they'll say the President of the United States is the most powerful man in the world. To me, he's symbolic of being a god, and that's what it's just like so clear that, that they keep perpetuating the same stuff over and over. And it's like we step back and we say it's powerful. We say money is powerful. We say all these things are powerful. And I'm saying, well, when you say all that is powerful, that means you give up the power that you have. So why do you give that stuff power? It's like money. Money doesn't care who owns it. I've never seen it walk down the street. I've never seen it do anything but used as a medium of exchange that we all have agreed to in the United States, this dollar. And in some other country, it's supposed to be, again, the most powerful money. Except sometimes the European money is a little bit higher than ours. So, of course, but white, okay? So people got to remember, is it the color that make you white? Is it really the color that makes you white, or is it the idea of whiteness? I don't know. I think for the first time in my lifetime that they're having a debate about what is whiteness.
Well, I always there's an old saying that in order to understand me, you had to put my foot in your shoes. And when I hear stuff like that, I always remember what Dr. Frances Cress Welsing wrote in her book, The ISIS Papers. He said that the so-called, one of the biggest fears of the racist white supremacists is that he knows that the so-called black man has power to cause genetic annihilation just through procreation. Without find a shot from a weapon outside of himself. And if a man got that kind of feel, that's a major stuff. And I never forget when I read that down in there. I got another caller with his hand raised, so hold on a minute. Brother Yoel, I'll be getting right with you, but let me open up area code 850. 850, tell us who you are and where you're calling from.
My name is Jennifer Daniels, and I am calling out of Colorado right now, but I'm actually live in Florida. I drive trucks.
Okay, Jennifer, how you doing? What's your take on this show?
I really enjoy it, and I really think that it's helping me to understand because it's something new that I'm getting into. And I've always been the type of person that's always been different, and I felt like it was always something more to what these people say about the Bible and Jesus. I just felt like it was something more to it. And then they want to say you're African American when you need to study for yourself to see exactly what it really is. And these people that you have on the show are awesome, by the way. And they have enlightened me on a lot of different stuff and make me look at things totally different, and it brings some clarification to what I thought was a possibility to actuality and truth. And I just want to say thank you, and I just appreciate this show, and I hope that it continues.
Okay, well, we ain't getting off there yet. Just hold your horse. Just sit right there. Brother Yoel, are you still with me?
Yes, sir. Still here.
Okay. What is it that you want to add after the starting from the break on down?
Okay. Well, going back to what Professor Williams just stated, trying to make it simple for some people, that he said can be said a little bit smaller, and I learned it a long time ago. He said, and it was that if you want to understand the person, place, or thing, you have to understand the nature, the purpose, and the origin of the thing. Mm-hmm. Would that be about right, Professor Williams?
Yes, that's right, Brother Yoel.
Okay, but in what he said something about the Middle East. That in itself is racism. The construct or the creation of that word, Middle East. Okay, that was racism did that. Oh, sorry about that. That was racism that did that. Okay, created that term, Middle East. You know, to take away from Northeast Africa is what they were doing. So a lot of the words and like that word, they are words that are created out of racism, which we are right now trying to understand the word God and other terms like that. The use of them, they all created out of that racism. So in actuality, they're so good at what they do, though, that your people are still bamboozled and hoodwinked, as Malcolm said a long time ago, over their use of those words and the things that they do. You can't convince some of your people that there is racism here, because their mind has been brainwashed such that they don't believe that. It's just like I was sitting one day with a friend, and we were looking at a movie, and in the movie there were some black people that started to act up because the police were attacking them, and they reacted to the attack, and they started burning and tearing up and breaking out windows and all of that. And the person said, see, that's wrong. They wrong. They wrong for that. That don't make no sense. Why are you doing that? I said, well, first of all, sister, you have to understand that that's not that's the culmination of a series of events that probably already took place. The others have took place already before, and this is just the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, secondly, you have to understand something that Martin Luther King said. He said that when he was in Birmingham jail, he said that he was writing a letter to ministers who had expressed their discontent and dissatisfaction with what he was doing. And he finally wrote them a letter back, and he said something like this, not exactly what he said, but he said, well, I appreciate your condemnation or you expressing your opinion about what I'm doing, and your dissatisfaction with that, but I do not see you expressing your dissatisfaction or concern or discontent for the conditions that created my doing what I do. And I thought that was a very powerful thing there. So if you're going to criticize what you're looking at, you got to understand, that there was a condition that created that. You have to look at that condition and condemn that condition for creating the reaction, even if it was a reaction to something that white or so-called white man did. You have to understand where it came from and how it came to be. Which you alluding at something with that issue of that white thing. Yeah, that's another word. That's another something that comes under racism. Because hey, you using the word white, and white he is not a white man. He is just the opposite of that, in fact. So when you look up that word and you look into the etymology of that word, it points back to purity. Okay, it's a status thing, and that's not him. It means free, pure person, and he's not no free, pure individual. So that shoe doesn't fit him either, but he's wearing it today. But using it in this illusional world that he's created, then you can use that to refer to him for those people who don't understand when you use that word. It means status. It's a status symbol. Then you can use the word like that. But that's a race. That was a racist move there as well. He didn't change places with us. And as I see it, it looks like to me that their whole racism extends from not just in America, throughout the world, because they have stole your birthright. No matter where you go on the planet, they done stole your birthright. Okay, from China, Aboriginal to Peru, South America, down in there, and all over here in this hemisphere. They done stole your birthright no matter where you were. Because if you were the root race of the planet, and there's evidence to strongly suggest that you are, then they've stole your birthright across the whole world. Okay?
Okay.
That's it.
Well, let me ask you one more question before I attempt to ask Professor Williams, Dr. Williams' wife, Arnetta Williams, the same question. In your opinion, what is your opinion of us, based on what we know now and based on what we've already covered, of the so-called black man dating the so-called and marrying and trying to procreate with a so-called white woman? What is your opinion about that?
Well, I'm in mixed opinions about that. For myself personally, I wouldn't choose to do that. I wouldn't choose my children to do that. Anybody who I hold dear and near to me I would not choose that for them, simply because to do so means to water down who you are. Basically, if you ask me, because he's deficient or he's incomplete as it stands. So why would you want to decrease or minimize your power of who you are by mixing and mingling with him in the first place? Okay? So you stand the risk of doing that and losing something in that situation. So I wouldn't suggest that anybody do that. However, I understand that spiritually and mentally, and physically, like Frances Cress Welsing said in her book that you mentioned, that basically that's one of the ways in which you can annihilate him. And some of us are going to participate in that plan to annihilate him that way, out of ignorance or out of intelligence. Some knowingly want to participate in that situation, and some out of their ignorance to participate in that situation. But I think that it's all going to go back in the end to what it was in the beginning, and it was you. It was all black in the beginning, it'll be all black in the end. I think so. I think that's where it's going to end up when it's all over with.
Okay. I'd like to go to Mrs. Arnetta Williams, if you're available. Could you give your take on that? Are you there?
I'm still here. We were trying to get these phones together, but okay. Go ahead. What's the question?
The question is, what is your take on the so-called black man having relations and marrying and procreating with the so-called white woman?
Okay.
So-called what? I'm sorry.
The so-called white woman.
Oh, I see. Well, I don't think a lot about it. We know that the white supremacists, the white nationalists, one of their underlying fears is dilution of their genetic pool. And, we could have the same concerns, actually. The thing with us, I think once we're into an interracial relationship, we tend to stop being so concerned about our own plight. And sometimes it's a false illusion that, I don't know whether it's we've arrived or we're in denial, which is what I was kind of thinking a little earlier about. When some of us succeed, we think we're no longer victims of racism, not recognizing that it can be snatched from us at any time, that someone desires. Look at Kaepernick and, what's going on with him. The mixing, I mean, what can I say? I try not to focus in on that so much because we have so much to do, those of us who are trying our very best to stay focused and to survive ourselves. What I like to focus in on is understanding, again, us knowing ourselves. Above every temple in ancient Egypt, there was what they call a Haru Badet, I think is, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And that was a symbol of the sun, Horus, with the two serpents on the side. And that meant know thyself. And I think that's what we have to do, know as much as we possibly can. And what that represented also was reminding us that the knowledge, the light comes out of the east, comes out of the east. From the east comes light. That's us. We're the light. We're the children of the sun. We're the children of the light because we are the descendants of those who were chosen to bring forth civilization that the whole world is taking advantage of. And in the west, the opposite of the east, for the most part, we can say this about the east also, the rising of the sun, and it sets in the west. From the west, they buried their dead, and also from the west is where the law comes from. So, and that's what tries to control the light, and that is what is dominating all these confused laws that we're confronted with. They are trying to snuff the light, and the light has to penetrate that darkness and those laws. So that means we have to be as up on it, all that they're doing, these laws, and try our darndest to do what we can to reverse them. You know, some people, they kind of scoff at the marching and all those things, but we have to do whatever we can to call attention to it and to try to penetrate that, because light does penetrate darkness, and that's where we have to focus our energies. But what I wanted to say about racism also, this is a word I've often thought about. And, of course, there are a number of definitions for race. People identified with certain traits and all these things, whether they're physical. But most biologists, and I'm looking at the free dictionary definition, and anthropologists, they don't recognize race as a biological valid classification. But I think that became something that was convenient, especially during slavery. It has a lot of economic connotations to it and reasoning behind it. Because, early on they tried to put whites as indentured servants. That's how this thing kind of started, and they weren't able to do that. And I guess because they could run away. But someone of color, we were very distinct, and we could be caught easily. And I think that was one of the motivators in this sharp definition of race. And the other definition, of course, is, say, for example, in a sport, because many years ago there was a lot of, what did they call those things over there in the arena? Not the Olympics, but there was this, what's that other term? Walter, do you remember?
Horse racing or
yes, all those
track
things.
racing.
Yes, those were races too.
Foot race.
Foot race, and there was gladiators. That's what I'm trying to say. That goes way back. So that was a form of competition. So I think you have the distinction between people, and then you have the competition added to that. And I think that's a lot of what's going on now, and I think that's what Donald Trump is really exploiting, saying that those other people are taking things from you, okay? It's because of them that you don't have. When we know the reality is it's because of him, people in his classification and the folks, the capitalists, if you will, who want to take from the underlings, okay, and exploit them. But now it's all mixed up and confused. So I would say if we can keep things among ourselves as much as possible, then we're not distracted and our efforts will not be diluted. That's what I have to say about that. Brother Tarhaka.
All right. Well, thank you, Mrs. Williams. Sister Emma, where you going?
Yes.
How you see this here? Us and them on top of each other. How you see it?
What on top of each other? What's on top of each other?
Yeah, the so-called black male procreating and having sex and procreating with the Caucasian female. How do you see that?
Well, I'm like my sister. I haven't thought a whole lot about it. But even if they do, the kids gonna be considered black. They ain't gonna be considered white. Some of them may look white, but they won't be white in this world. So I don't. You know what? We won't be able to tell the difference in a way, but we can in a sense that they use it a little bit lighter. But sometimes I have to laugh. I say, "Wow, we were talking about the sun and this." I'm saying, okay. What is wrong with white people? The sun don't even like white people because they can't even stand it.
Okay. All
so
right.
Who are they? I don't know. I don't know. I'm saying, there's a problem now. When the sun don't like you. So,
Okay. Before we get to Dr. William, Brother Yoel, you want to weigh in on that question, man?
Well, I kind of already said a little bit about that, but we must understand that science is the definitive answer on things, and that is when black genes are dominant and white genes are recessive, and you have something like that taking place, whether it be a black male and a white female, or white male and black female, you're going to have the black being dominant. And according to them, in 1966 in Huntsville, Alabama, a group of white scientists came together to determine how much black blood it takes to make you black. They came away with one drop. Okay? So it's a wrap. After that, there's nothing else to be said unless those men were racist in what they said and created that concept, and there's no truth or no facts to back that up. Then right now, as it stands, that was truth to it, and so therefore there's nothing else left to be said. Black genes are dominant and white genes are recessive, and that's one of the ways in which we'll eliminate that issue. All right.
Okay. All right. Well, well put. Well put. Dr. Williams.
Yes, sir.
You want to weigh in on that for us?
Well, the thing I can say about our African men choosing to have a relationship with a European female is that you have to understand their thinking and where and how their thinking was developed. Okay? You're talking about an individual, a whole race of people who don't even know their ancestral history. You're talking about a race of people who do not have a nationality to unify around. You're talking about a race of people who's been taught in the school system of the United States of America by a system that was created by the European. And in that school system that the European created, he also created the curriculum for it. So, like Carter G. Woodson said, and wrote a book in 1933 that says The Miseducation of the Negro. So he's been given wrong information. He's been given no information about himself. He identified himself as being black. That's a color. Black is a name that is synonymous with Negro. Negro and black is synonymous. That name came from the Spanish given to the Moors while in Spain. But it goes back into another history. So this male of African descent living in this country, he is void of the knowledge of who he is as a human being. He's void of the knowledge of his ancestors being the ancient Egyptians. He's void of the knowledge that his ancestors being the ancient Egyptians brought civilization to all of humanity. He's void of the knowledge about the white race or the white male, where they fit in world history by using the discipline of history to understand where they fit. You go back and you take all of what I just said, and you can understand his confusion as to why he would pick a white female for a mate. It's just like you have to go back to the question that was asked by psychologists and sociologists to the little to the little African child in America. Which doll do you like the best? This white doll, or do you like this black doll, this brown skin doll? And they will gravitate 9/10 of the time to the white doll. Okay, they'll do that because they've been trained out of ignorance, unconsciously, subliminally, to do just that. But like I said before, let's go back before we can have a conversation. That would be my answer. Those would be my answers to you. But let's go back to the conversation of white supremacy.
Okay.
You have to understand, again, you have to know ancient Egyptian history. And once you understand that, you will find that the ancient Egyptians brought forth out of their culture the rudiments for civilization, for all of humanity. Okay? You have to study who you are as a human being, individually. You have to know something about what you was given at the time of your birth, coming out of your mother's womb, that you as a human being, and all human beings, had a pineal gland. What is that pineal gland? It's an organ that sits in the middle of your brain. The bottom of the pineal gland are your nostrils. What do you do with your nostrils? You intake air to keep that spirit alive inside of you, keep you alive, keeps your humanity alive. Okay? That pineal gland takes you, the individual human, into your own individual universe. Every human walking this earth, you got 7 billion humans walking this earth as human beings. Every human walking this earth of all races and color live in their own personal universe. An individual's human's universe is invisible. If I cut your head open, I can see your brains, but I cannot see your mind. That is your spiritual universe that you live in. You think in that, you do everything in that universe. You can create whatever you want to create in that universe, except for you cannot procreate unless you are mated with a female for that purpose. But anything else you can create from your mind. So you have to understand that. And you also have to understand, along with your humanity, that you did not and was not given a religion when you came out of your mother's womb after 9 months of incubation. Man created this religion for you. Now, let's get back to the foundation and the root of racism. Again, before the European came on the scene of history, world history, the stage of history, there was no racism on planet Earth. But here he comes. He came from a place in Europe that he has no history written down about where he came from before he got into Egypt. So therefore, he had no record of where he came from. But now he is now in the continent of Africa, in the country where our people, the Africans, known today as ancient Egyptians, brought forth civilization for all of humanity. Okay? So now, he, coming from a place void of any record of his existence, where he came from, he came from an area in the world that did not bring forth civilization or use any rudiments of a civilized people. So you have to break him down first before you can move off into the understanding about racism. You got to expose who he is, that he is a psychopath, a sociopath, that he is inferior, that he is a savage, that he is a thief, that he is a liar, that he is selfish, and he likes to take from other people. That's his way of operating. He takes and forces from the culture of other people to try to make himself look like something that he will never, ever be. Okay? And that's civilized. Our ancestors, even for 2,349 years of his existence on the scene of history, tried to show him and teach him how to be a civilized human being. He refused that. He don't understand that. He thinks that he's supposed to take everything. He thinks that he is supposed to be the one that is in the place of our ancestors. If you reach in your pocket and get a dollar bill, on every dollar bill, you see a pyramid there. And on that pyramid, on that dollar, you see at the very top of that pyramid a golden ball appearing to be red. That's the sun. That's who we are as a people. Like my wife, Sister Arnetta Williams, was explaining when she was on a few minutes ago. That's who we are. That's our position. He wants that position. Okay? So what he's doing, he's projecting to the world that we, the people who created the civilization, the people who brought forth civilization, the people who have the rudiments of everything that's out here, because there's nothing new under the sun, because our ancestors created everything that's under the sun, okay, by way of civilization, okay? So therefore, he did not and does not understand that. He wants to be made part of that, and after our ancestors created for him, using their deities to give to him, to try to make him a god. He, once that was completed, he began to eliminate them. That's how the European's mind goes like this. He will use you to get what he wants. And after he gets what he wants, he will discard you like a piece of toilet paper. Get rid of you, erase you, and then he'll take over what you have created for him and claim it for himself. That's what you have to expose about him. Then, once you understand that about this European, and you understand about the position that our ancestors are in, and how they brought forth civilization to the world, and compare the two individual races of men, then you will understand. And now we can begin to talk about racism. Without that understanding, you're not getting to the root of racism. Who began racism? Where it began? By whom it began? Okay? Against who? He created this racism for the sole purpose of destroying our ancestors and erasing them out of history and taking what our ancestors had created through their culture. He wanted that. He wants that. So he projects to the world that we are an inferior people, when that's what he is about. He's inferior, you see? So therefore, you really have to understand that, Brother Tarhaka, before we can start on the journey of understanding racism. That's the foundation of it right there. So if you don't understand that and start from that point, then you're missing the boat. I'm not talking about you individually, anybody. It's missing the boat. So you have to understand and know something about this European who is bringing and have brought forth racism into this world among the people of this earth, among humanity that's existing on this earth at this very moment that I'm talking. Brother Tarhaka?
Okay, and I thank you for explaining that. I'm going to look at this thing from a slight twist. And you have nailed it down exactly. And I'm going to take one little quick break. And when we come back, don't forget, the phone lines are open. And just press 1 on your phone. That'll give me an indication that you have something to say. But you cut your volume up for one moment.
I'll explain it according to compensatory counter-racist logic, which is what the book is about. I do it within that context, because everything in the book is about compensatory counter-racist logic, meaning the logic that is designed to help to replace racism with justice. See, we got to keep in mind what the book is about, what we're trying to do. Otherwise, we get lost. One thing that the book does not allow, that the concept does not allow me to do, and that is to personalize. See, what I do is go straight to the logic, because the logic takes care of everything, or doesn't take care of it if it's logical or whatever. It's either logical or it's not logical, and that will be proved by evidence. So therefore, if you personalize things, see, that makes for conflict and added controversy. That's something that you don't want. You're not looking for a fight. You already got that.
No.
See, we're looking for solutions to all the fighting that has been going on. Okay. Now, so we'll look at that. Now, I've been saying all along, making the slave ship analogy, because the system of white supremacy is a system of slavery, meaning people are forced to do things that they shouldn't be forced to do. That's all slavery is. Slavery never ended. If you are still mistreated on the basis of color, you are a slave. If you haven't figured out what to do about it and come out from under it. So that hasn't changed. It's just different forms, that's all. Some slaves are comfortable, some slaves are not. But you're still a slave to a system that shouldn't exist. Now, having nailed that down and getting to the point that you're making, now, if I'm a slave, which means I'm a prisoner, and one of the ladies, captain's ladies, one of the members of the ruling class, comes down the ladder and beds down with me because she takes a fancy to me personally, and even takes me up on deck and lets me waltz around and whatnot, and might even put some of the fine clothes that they have in their trunks back there. And I become a favorite. And because of, sexual considerations, what a lot of people call in a slang term, bed work, she says, well, I like the fella. And I think he should finish out the voyage, or wherever we're going, in my custody personally. Because that's a decision that she makes. In the system, in the slave system, in the slave ship system. See? She may not even like the system itself. But that's a personal matter. But the overall effect is that the slave becomes enamored of the benefits of this. That's what's really happening. Because the slave ship is still a slave ship. And the slave being brought up on deck and given a good bath and being given fancy clothes and allowed to walk around with the missus on the deck because she chose him. He didn't choose her. Black males do not choose white women. White women choose black males under the system of racism, even when it looks like it was the other way around. Because the system will decide, meaning collectively, the white supremacists decide who will be with whom, when, and where. And this is not a new phenomenon. It goes back even to the days of some people say the Roman Empire. Go down into the catacombs. Go down and find, the black male who today was going to go into the Colosseum and be fed to the lions. But one of the ladies of the palace spots him, looks him over. He's standing there naked. She takes a look at him and measures him up with her eyes and says, aha, pick that one out for me. Come up to the palace. Have him up to the palace by noon. He's not going into the arena. He's not ever going into the arena. He's mine. What else is new? This is fine if it does anything about actually breaking down the system. But here's the overall effect. It gives the illusion that the system is breaking down. That's what has been up to now. Now, it may reach a tipping point. Being realistic, being truthful, it may reach a tipping point where that's no longer the case, where the system really begins to erode because of that. And this is what the old Ku Klux Klansmen used to say. They said, oh, yes, you can fool around like that for a little while, but you let it, just like you do in the schools, you let it get a little too far out of hand. You get a little too many black people and white people palling around with each other. Next thing you know, you got no more white supremacy. And we don't want that. These is what the people who are what you call old line Ku Klux Klanners, that's what they call themselves. This is what they have always said. They said it's okay to have some of this as long as you have it under your control. But there's a point that you might let it slip out of your control, and then you got that heathen chaos. And then everything that we have worked for, our whole system, our whole criminal organization has fallen apart. And we can't have too much of that. We can have some of it as long as it's under our control.
Okay. We are officially back. Brother Yoel. Are you with me, brother? I think Brother Yoel's taking a little break. Go up here. Sister Emma?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you tell me, this is my question, can you tell me what justice is in the face of what we know so far about racism, white supremacy? What is your definition of justice?
Justice. That's funny. I don't know what it is in this country, but anyway, Dick Gregory says, not Dick Gregory, but what was his name? What was the comedian? Not Dick Gregory, but wow.
Bill Cosby?
I can see. No, I can see his face, but I can't call his name right now. Anyway, he said it's just us. That's what justice is. So
just us.
That part has been proven to be true. Just us. Okay. But anyway, you know what? The history I don't quite understand. I guess is we don't really talk a lot about is the time between Jim Crow and right after slavery. I understand there was no Jim Crows, but supposedly so many white women was marrying black guys that the white people didn't have nobody to marry. I don't know if it's true or not, but I know they were senators and different things, and then that's when the Jim Crow laws started coming in. I'm a little bit confused about that. So I don't know if anybody knows.
Dr. Williams, he done gave us part of the answer. He said he's a psychopath. He's a sociopath. And I remember one time there was a situation where somebody attacked a Caucasian man, and he told the people that attacked him, why you attack me? Why didn't you attack this old woman over here? Why you attack her? And I mean, like, wait a minute, you because that goes totally against the grain about everything I know. You mean to tell me that because somebody attacked you and it was a white woman right over from you that you thought that he was supposed to attack her, just throw her away? So that type of behavior tells me a lot. But what we are having this show about tonight is getting to the bottom of this and the solutions. But we've been deal with the solutions right now. Let me go back down here and see if Brother Yoel and come back here too. What else you got to add?
Well, I think what we do is that it's all kind of a delusion that the white man created. So I'm thinking, well, maybe we focus too much on what he's created and not what we need to create. I just think because we give our power, like I said, and speaking it's almost like it comes true. The people don't understand their own psychology because white people are not power. You have your own power. And if they believe there is a creator, I am creator, or whatever you say, why would he give it to the white person? That's up to you to start using your own power. And let me just tell this story since I got my sister on the line. We all on the line. Egypt. So when my sister came back, she called her just to go to show you how things can work if you work them in your own mind. Okay. Maybe we need to be calling on our ancestors instead of focusing on these white people. Because I think it's a mute point. I really do. We can solve it, but we will not solve it by focusing on them. The thing, my sisters, we came back from Egypt. So my sister said she was going to go to the DeSalvo Museum. In the meantime, she said she wanted to meet somebody because at that time she was not married. She had been married, but she wasn't married at that particular time. She said that she would like to meet somebody, but she was wavering about it. And I'm saying, okay, you really want to meet somebody. And I said, just say that's what you want to do. If that's what you want to do, it's no shame. So I said, when she said it, I said, okay, I'll affirm it with you to make it stronger. So she gets back and she said what she was calling the DeSalvo Museum. Well, the DeSalvo Museum she called the right museum, but it wasn't the DeSalvo Museum, and some people would say she called the wrong museum. She called the museum that Walter Williams owned, okay? So when she got on the phone, she spoke to him. He invited her to his museum, okay? He can tell the story if he wants to. But anyway, my portion of it is that she met Walter. She went to his museum. They started dating. 4 months later, they was married for 25 years now. You tell me that's not your own power? Tell me about it. She created it. She didn't create. Yeah, but she created what she wanted in her mind, and it became Walter Williams.
Well, I'm going to investigate this.
Investigate it.
Mrs. Arnetta Williams, could you please come forward? Are you there?
You better be there.
Well, she might be taking a little break. Dr. Williams?
No, we're here. I'm sorry. We had it on mute. I see. She has it just about right.
All right. Now, so what you... Go ahead.
I said the essence of what Emma said is true. She's right. We had spent 15 days in Egypt, and we were studying every night over there. So I was interested in continuing my studies after I returned to Chicago. And Emma's thinking it was DuSable Museum, but actually the tour guides had given me Jacob Carruthers' name at the Inner City Studies with Northeastern. The Kemetic Institute is how they described it. And I didn't know later it was inside of Northeastern. But anyway, I was at work one day, and I thought, let me try to contact these people so that I can get on with my studies. And so sure enough, I didn't have the number with me, so I thought I'd call information and get the number. And when I called information, they said, no, I'm sorry, we don't have a Kemetic Institute. So I said, well, do you have anything with Egypt in it, a museum or institute or something? She said, yes, I have a listing for the Ancient Egyptian Museum, an institute. I said, okay, I'll take that number. And so I called, and I said who I was and what I was interested in. I said, I'm interested. I just returned from Egypt. I'm interested in pursuing my studies. And so that was a recording. And I didn't know at the time he was only open on weekends. So he called me back within a day or two, and we talked. And the interesting thing was I had just returned, and he was on his way to Egypt. So, of course, that opened up a real conversation. And then the rest of what she said is all that's it. That's how it happened. He invited me down to the museum. He said, can you come down that Saturday? And I said, well, no, I can make it that Sunday. And so I did. And it turns out later to have been his birthday, we realized, okay.
Oh.
Yes, that was in 92, and so he and the docents, they took me upstairs to a classroom and started teaching me the same day. And so anyway, what can I say? The rest is history, as they say.
Well, let me talk to Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams, where you at? You in there?
I'm still here.
All right, now you got to tell me the flip side of what was going on from your end.
Well, at the time, Brother Tarhaka, my wife passed in November 1990, and when Arnetta came on the scene, I was going into 2 years of being a widower. naturally there's a big void in your life when you lose a maid or wife or something like that. So she came along and we talked. I got the message off the machine at that time, and I called her from home because I could retrieve my messages from my home, which was 20 blocks away from the museum building that I had bought. And we talked for about 3 hours at that time. And she told me that she and her sister had been to Egypt and they came back, and some of the experiences that they had over in Egypt and so forth and so on. And my group was going in August, the following month. So the latter part of August. So anyway, we talked. I think I called her back on that Monday, I believe. And we talked for 3 hours, and I called her back again that Wednesday, and we talked another 3 hours and things like that. And I invited her down to the museum that Saturday because we were open only on Saturdays and Sundays. And she says, well, like she told you, she couldn't make it that Saturday, but she could make it that Sunday. And she came to the museum that Sunday. That day happened to be my birthday. It was on August the 9th. And she came up to the fence. I had an iron fence that wrapped around the museum. And I had a long flight of steps coming from the streets all the way up to the first floor of the museum. And I saw her, and the moment I saw her, I knew that she was going to be my wife. Just that simple, you know. But anyway, excited. So I invited her up and into the museum. We showed her around the museum. We took upstairs to the classrooms and things like that. And so the rest of it is history. And I began to say, well, can you come back next weekend? She said, yes, I'll be back. But we talked that following week because, see, like she said, the museum was only open on Saturdays and Sundays. So I talked to her that following week, which would be the second week of us knowing each other. And we talked for hours after that, you know. So I said, well, can you come back to the museum this week? She says, no, I can't come back this week because I'm going to a family reunion in Mississippi. I said, oh, okay. So anyway, she said, I'll be back. I can come that fourth week. I said, okay. So I waited for her, and she came back. And when she came back that fourth week, she brought a friend from Youngstown, Ohio, with her that worked at for AT&T, like she was employee of AT&T. So anyway, we all went out to have dinner and so forth and so on. And we, at that point, we began to date. I asked her, would she be my girlfriend? She says yes. And then
she didn't hesitate. She didn't stutter or hesitate or nothing like that.
Huh?
She didn't hesitate or stutter. Did she hesitate or stutter or anything like that when you asked that question?
No, she didn't do that. She says yes. I said, she said she claims it wasn't the fourth week, but anyway, it was somewhere around in that area. But anyway, she got to be my girlfriend, and we began to date even more so. And then I asked her to be my fiance. Because we're getting into that marriage area now, you know. So she says, okay, you know. And then the rest is history. We got married. We've been married going on 25 years now.
Okay.
So I couldn't ask for a better wife. She's just terrific. You know.
Well, You know, I can tell you the first time she came to the gate, that was over. So you saw her, but she saw you too. So you
right. She saw me too.
But may I speak?
Huh?
But
may I speak?
They are what? Yeah.
May I speak? Okay, this is Emma. May I speak?
Oh, man.
Yeah,
oh,
come
Emma.
on.
Okay, yes,
come
Emma,
on,
go ahead.
Come on
Look,
in.
You missed the point was that Walter, he didn't have a chance because even though she didn't know him, she created him and his characteristics in her mind, where everything begins in your life. How you are a creator is my point. She created him, the characteristics she wanted to make, and he couldn't resist when she showed up.
He would have opened the gate, and she was already at the gate.
There you go. There you go. Because you know what? She didn't know what he looked like, but she knew the characteristics that he had that she wanted. Okay? So when she showed up at the gate, see, it was supposed to be the wrong number. It wasn't really the right number anyway, because she was looking for a cosmetic museum. But I'm just saying how powerful people are, and they don't even know it.
Well, you sure have a valid point there, and case in point, and evidence, and everything.
Look at
let me open up Brother Yoel. Let me open up Brother Yoel line again. See where he at in here on all this here. Brother Yoel, are you still with us?
You got to wait till I'm crying now. Our tears is running. You know, I'm just happy in the story. Y'all have made me water, my eyes water.
Let us. What's your story, man?
My story came along later on.
Okay.
My story came along later on when I encountered the professor, so it was already a done deal. So I'm just glad to be a part of it right now. Okay.
All right.
But
well, I tell you what, it's a wonderful story. It's a wonderful story.
I will say this, so I'm gonna have to leave y'all, but all the books that you mentioned, Isis Papers and Neely Fuller's book, it's kind of hard to get because he only sells it through our website and whatnot. But there's a lot of other books on racism and understanding this racism thing. There's a guy named Moore that's got a book called The Origin of Race and its Evil Use. That's a pretty good book.
Okay.
So there's quite a few books out there on it. You can find those kind of books. If I ain't got it, I can find it for you at the Underground Bookstore in Chicago. Of course, you can call me if you're not in Chicago. I'll mail it to you. If you're in prison, I'll mail it to you. Wherever you are, we'll get it to you. So you can call Brother Yoel at the Underground Bookstore in Chicago at 773-768-8869. Or you can email me at theundergroundbookstore@gmail.com.
All right. Give me the number this time. Give me the number again, telephone number again, and slowly this time so they can write it down. 773.
The number is 773-768-8869. Okay? It's 773-768-8869. And email us at theundergroundbookstore@gmail. Okay? All right. It's been a plum pleasing pleasure to be on with y'all fantastic people. So I'm going to have to sign off, and I'll talk to y'all next time. Thank you, brother.
Okay, Brother Yoel.
Thanks for the praises to you for the invitation. Yes, sir. I Mod Hotel. So thank you for inviting me, and everybody enjoyed y'all the conversation. Appreciate it.
Okay, brother.
All right, my brother. Take care. Peace. Okay, now, y'all. We down to 25 minutes. Emma, what is your what is in your opinion the solution to the matter? And this is before you give us your closing statements. The solution to the matter of racism, white supremacy as it exists worldwide.
Well, it's like you said, things, when you keep something in your mind, and that's what you worry about, and that's what you think about, that's what you bring about. We need to stop thinking about, stop fearing. Fear creates all kind of psychological problems, and it creates a lot of physical problems. And if we could just get our minds on the things that we want to happen in the world, not so much collectively, just starting with ourselves. And the peace always begins with you. So it's the same way with fear. Racism don't end when we stop recognizing racism. It's constructed. It's an illusion. We can create our own illusion. We are that powerful as individuals, and collectively we are more powerful. That's why I told the story.
Okay. Well, then you told the right story tonight. You sure did.
Let me just say this. I'm going to show you a simple thing that people can do. Take a cloud. When the sky is clouded, take a cloud and focus on that cloud and see, can't you bust it with your mind? Bust it up with your mind. Just try it. It's simple. Doesn't cost a thing. Just costs a few minutes. That's it. Just see how powerful you really are. And that'll be the beginning for a lot of things that changes you.
Okay.
I like that.
All right. Well,
yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes, I totally agree with my sister Emma, and she's right. I think the thing that we do fear the most is the power that we do possess, and we fear it because with power there comes responsibility, and we have to take responsibility for what's going on with us. Sure, there might be some limitations, but we cannot see those. We have to make a decision about what it is we want. We have to be clear on that because, as she has indicated, there are small things that we do that have come about for us. So why not apply those same principles to the larger issues that we have? We have to take the power back because we had it in the beginning and we can take it again. If we were chosen to bring about civilization, and we have created 3 civilizations, we can also create what needs to happen right now. And that is, you brought up justice earlier. And for me, that is fairness. We can help to bring that about or just bring it about. We can demand it. The things that we have focused on and really put our minds to work, they've come about. And we don't want to start losing ground because that's what's happened because we've become distracted. We're not focused as we have been, and we need to refocus our minds. And along with that, we're going to see a difference being made. But again, we need to know some of the things about our ancestors, our history. We need to call upon them if we believe what we say we believe. And we have to keep trying to educate our folks who are distracted by religion, and they need to understand that they have the power. Some of our people actually believe that they need religion in order to be spiritual. No, let's correct that right now. Religion needs us. It needs an infusion of our spirituality in order to stay alive. And I think once we understand that, we got a really good handle on this thing.
Like racism.
Yes.
Okay.
And
right.
Yeah, and our own power needs to resurface. See, a lot of whites understand our power and know who we are. That's why I think Emma said it earlier. If we had nothing going for us, why do we need these laws to limit us? Why do they need to try to keep their foot on our necks? We can all come up together. But they don't believe that. That's why they work so hard to try to keep us down. But see, we're a fair-minded people. We don't have a problem with sharing. And I'm convinced that that's why we were chosen to bring forth civilization. We didn't try to hoard it for ourselves. We shared it with everyone. We even took one of our 3 alphabets and applied it to the various languages. Know your phonics. That's a creation of the ancient Egyptians, our ancestors. That's why we're able to communicate with each other as well as we do today, because of the foundation that was laid by them or that they were allowed to bring forth. There are so many things. We are a super powerful people, and we don't mind sharing. Okay, and sometimes we've even been naive, some say. But I don't think so. I think the sharing and the being open and humane it's all gonna pay off. And I think maybe that's why some women might be attracted to our men. Okay? Okay. They see something in there other than money. Because a lot of our folks who are doing really well, white women are drawn to them, are sick on them. I don't know. We have to decide how that has really gone. But we have so much to offer. And we need to start refocusing and know who we really are, and that we have the key to bring about a much better world than we're currently having. We have the key to that. And if we can realize that, we're going to be okay. Okay. Thank you, Brother Tarhaka, for the opportunity to have a chance to say a few things tonight. I really appreciate you. Thank you, Emma.
You're quite welcome, Mrs. Williams. Now let's hear from Big Daddy. Big Daddy, let's listen to your solution before closing arguments. Your solutions in your words, Dr. Williams.
Yes, sir, Brother Tarhaka. My solution to this is a culmination of what Sister Emma was saying, a culmination of what my wife, Sister Arnetta Williams, was saying, a culmination of what our dear brother Yoel was saying, a culmination of words, what the great host of this program, Brother Tarhaka Amaneo Bey, has been saying. So you take every member of our panel, you take their words and put it out there in an arena, and you take the meaning of their sentences and their words and how they put those words and sentences together. You take all that and put it in a pot, and you have a powerful, powerful stew that was created right here on your program tonight on Brother Tarhaka Amaneo Bey's show with the guests that you had on your show, and that includes Walter Williams. And I want to thank every person that's participated on tonight's program. My wife, Sister Arnetta Williams, my sister-in-law, Sister Emma McGowan, and my great friend, Brother Yoel, and of course, our great host, Dr. Tarhaka Amama Elbe, and the caller, that sister who was out there listening and still out there listening to us as I speak and as we speak. That sister that called in, who is a truck driver. She's called in and she told us about the words that was being spoken on this program, how our words have elevated her into another way of thinking, into another level of consciousness. And our words are making her evolve. And when the individual evolves, that means that individual is growing. So I thank you for everything that you've done in the past. I thank you for everything that you're doing at this present moment, Brother Tarhaka, for giving us a platform to come forth and bring information to our African community, the information that is so vitally needed in our community in order for us to grow as a people. We, as an African people in America, the Africans that's living in America under the name and identity of Black, Negro, and African Americans, we are the leaders of this whole entire world. We are the Pied Piper. We are the Pied Piper to the point where all the rest of the people living on earth follow us and follow the things that we say and follow the things that we do. So we are a very creative people. So therefore, we have the power and hold the power that will change this whole entire world around. Once we, as an African people in the United States of America, in our community, once we free ourselves by way of knowledge and free ourselves into the light of the truth, then the whole world will be true. The whole world will be free, rather. And so, therefore, we're going to have to work on freeing ourselves by you, Tarhaka, having a program that you're having to bring such guests that you have on your program, such as myself, such as Sister Emma, Sister Arnetta, Sister Brother Yoel, and et cetera, et cetera. And so that is some of the things I have to say. And another thing, if anybody out there in the listening audience wants to email me, you can email me at ancientegyptian@msn.com. Ancient, ANCIENT, Egyptian, EGYPTIAN, @msn.com. When you email me, put your phone number there, and I'll call you back, and we can continue to have a conversation. So I appreciate you and for having this program and bringing the knowledge that you have presented on this program to our African community. And my two books, again, are The Historical Origin of Christianity. It's been out going on 25 years now. And the thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form, been in race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ, never existed. My other book is called The Historical Origin of Islam. It's been out for 14 years, and the thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Prophet Muhammad of Islamic tradition. So those two books can be bought through the Underground Bookstore here in Chicago. Brother Yoel sells my books every day, and he is able to mail out to you after you put in your order by calling him at area code 773-947-86. I'm sorry, I'm giving out the wrong phone number. you can call Brother Yoel at 773-768-8869. Again, the Underground Bookstore phone number to order my 2 books is 773-768-8869. And if you can also order my book through Amazon or any local African bookstore in your community where you live. So with that, I appreciate you, Brother Yoel, and I thank you again. Back to you, my brother.
All right. Dr. Williams, I certainly appreciate you being back on Moore's Talk Live 100. You always do a super fantastic show, and no matter where I put your information at and put the show after it's done, we only hear in print, especially when it gets up on YouTube, about people who say they disagree with some of what you're saying. And I find that quite fascinating because you ain't hiding. You are out there. You put your book out there, and the videos coming out there. My phone number there. Your email, your contact information there, Brother Yoel there. But we don't ever hear from nobody. So that tells me that you ain't don't disagree. You just mad about it because there's nothing you can do about it. You can't unhear it, and you ain't got nothing that can possibly prove that it's wrong if it's been out there 14 years. So, in my opinion, I don't think about nothing, none of that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm certainly glad that you all were here, and I thank you. And I will be contacting you in the future about our next broadcast, because we're going to have to cover some more subjects because we're involved in solutions, and we have many more people that are listening. Don't think they're not listening, because they listen, and they learning. And some of them are slower than others, but we ain't worried about them because we too busy pioneering and making history. So I'd like to thank you, your lovely wife. Thank you, Sister Emma, her sister, and hopefully one day we'll get a chance to meet each other.
Correct. Looking forward to that, brother.
I'm gonna have to get me a gate so I can, so one can appear at it and I can open it for her.
You got to put it in your mind. You got to put it in your mind. Your mind, the characteristics you want in.
Okay.
Ring your bell.
I hear you. I thank you all for being here, and I'm gonna go ahead and close down this thing, and I'm gonna Dr. Williams, I'm gonna give you and Arnetta the way I see it with my closing song. This is from me to y'all. So you all have a good night. I've been y'all host, Tarhaka Amana L. Bay, and until next time, y'all have a good night.
A man can't do no more than a woman let him. She won't make mistakes if she knows she'll regret them. A woman will stick by you through thick and thin. And with a woman like this, I know I've got to win. I know I've got a sure thing. I know I've got a sure thing. I know I've got a sure thing. I got a sure thing. Well, my baby, now listen. Me and my baby been together through all kinds of weather. I don't care what happens, we always together. If I see her talking to some dude out on the street, when the conversation is over, she coming straight home to me.
that you don't respond to name calling at all, except maybe to ask questions if it's not done in a hostile way. But if it's done in a hostile way, it's best not to say anything. And that's any kind of name. Any name that you're called. You're not accepting the name calling. You heard it, you're listening to it, but that doesn't say that it means anything. It only means something if you decide that you're going to let it mean something. And I do use the word let, because the person who is calling you the name is also jockeying for position to call the rest of the shots. And either way that will go. The non-white person will probably lose one way or another, because in a system of white supremacy, the deck is stacked. So the basic philosophy is, the basic concept is, anybody can call any person a name who is classified as non-white, black, brown, red, yellow, that's non-white, anywhere at any time, and you're not even supposed to budge on account of the name calling as far as responding in a retaliatory manner. Not verbally and not physically. Any name that is called you should not bother you in the least, at any time, at any place, under any circumstance. Doesn't make any difference who's calling the names. It should absolutely not bother you, and you should not respond. Why? For a very logical reason. They're doing it to get a response. And since you did not initiate the show, you don't buy into somebody else's show, particularly when you don't know in advance how it's all going to end. And when I say all, I mean all down from, forever, as of that moment. Might wind up in gunfire and all like that, and you don't know which way that might go. And either way it goes, it means that you have walked into something of someone else's making. The person who calls you a name, that's their setup. Don't walk into somebody else's setup. Always have plans of your own. For the next 5 minutes, for the next day, rest of the day, and for the next weeks and months and years to come. And don't get pulled off your horse, to use a slang expression, by somebody's name calling. And you're left standing in the road and your horse has run off. And you realize at some point, how did I get drawn into that? Because always, without exception, you're being drawn into something that is not a plan of your own. Always have a plan of your own. And part of that plan is you absolutely, under no circumstances, respond in a counter manner to name calling. Meaning, in a practical sense, anybody, anywhere, for any reason, can jump up and call you any bunch of names that they want to call you, in public or elsewhere. And you are not supposed to move a muscle. Not because you're traumatized, but because you're not paying any attention to it other than you just heard it. But it's supposed to mean absolutely nothing to you, no matter what the names are. Even if some of the names refer to people who are, you might think, or consider to be near and dear to you. Mother, sister, cousin, son, daughter. And you pass that word on to them. Why? Because it's functional. And it works for you. Doesn't work against you. Responding in a non-predictable manner. And I say it's non-predictable because unless you can predict the total outcome of everything that's going to happen as a result, particularly if there's going to be an altercation, if you say, get it in your head, I'm not allowing anybody to call me that. I'm going to retaliate, and I'm going to retaliate either right now or I'm going to retaliate later. Then you better start thinking about you're ready to kill, ready to die, and all of the consequences that go with that. Ready to kill, ready to die, ready to be locked up forever, ready for everything that you didn't plan for, if you respond in that manner. You should have it in your mind that this is your last day on earth, or, if not today, somewhere down the road, or, because of this, locked up in the greater confinement, thinking it over down through the years. Now, suppose I had handled that differently by simply not letting someone else dominate that little part of power that I do have. And that is to pay no attention to what was said other than I know that it was said. That's the only attention that it really warrants. It doesn't warrant anything else. It doesn't call for anything else. But you can always take note of things that happen around you, because that's something that happens around you. It has nothing to do with you directly unless you decide that it has something to do with you. But even when you make that decision that it has something to do with you, you're actually saying to everybody around, including the person who is doing the name calling, that they are in control of your destiny just by calling you a name. Now you have decided you have to respond to their agenda. If you're going to be heading toward universal man and universal woman, you should have your own agenda and not be wired to respond in a way that's going to be harmful to you ultimately, to everything that's going on around you each and every day forever. You're being jerked around and don't even know it. Get out of that mode.
Context of white supremacy. If you're interested in dialing in, the number is 760-5